Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
After a year of extreme weather, farmers have a lot to contend with at the moment. But sheep farmers are facing possibly an even bigger obstacle as they put their rams in the fields this breeding season. The lambs they're planning for will be born after Brexit, and so decision-making is unusually difficult. And the latest figures show that breeding ewes are fetching the lowest price in more than 3 years. Our Consumer Affairs correspondent Coletta Smith has been talking to farmers in Cumbria.
On a crisp autumn day, there are few places more appealing than being up on the hills with the sheep at Easgill Farm. But for Rachel and her family, it's getting harder to make the sums add up.
300 lambs, £30.
You're talking £30 loss,
Yeah.
or £30 less than last year.
So it's about £9,000. We have friends who were £20,000 back. It's a bit of a worry because obviously you've got your bills to pay.
But she's already having to make the big decisions about next spring.
We put the tups in with the sheep, so we've got lambs inside sheep that we don't know whether we'll be able to sell. But you can't not put your rams with your sheep, so you just have to carry on, really.
This is crunch time of year for sheep farmers. They're finding out how much they made on all their lambs from last spring and how much they're going to have to invest in breeding stock this year because it's market season. So I'm heading down the road to Kirby Stephen, which has got one of the biggest livestock marts in the country.
52, 53, 50.
Almost 500 rams were sold here today for breeding next spring's lambs. Like auctions across the country, prices were down.
Farmers as a whole, as a race, if you like, as a group of people, are pretty resilient. You know, we had a difficult winter, we had a really bad spring, beast from the east and all the atrocious weather, followed by a really dry summer and Brexit. So, yes, I mean, the amount of uncertainty this autumn is probably greater than we've seen for a long time.
But that's how the land lies for farmers this breeding season.
They're going to be in a situation where those lambs are going to be born post-Brexit in a completely different market. We might be under World Trade Organization tariffs then, which would really hit, 90% of our lamb trade in this country goes into Europe. So if we go under WTO rules, we're in a really difficult situation where we don't have free trade access to our biggest market.
Yeah, quite like these two.
Rachel's daughter, Catherine, is watching as her parents make big financial decisions about the farm she loves and hopes to run one day.
Definitely it's in the back of my mind, like what is going to happen after Brexit. But I just think we need to persevere because we are the people who provide the food for the UK.
Whatever happens, decisions by farmers to reduce their flock now will have an impact on the price we pay in the shops for lamb next year. Coletta Smith, BBC News, in Kirby Stephen.
Dyson, the firm which made its name with vacuum cleaners, says it'll make its new electric cars in Singapore, ending hopes for a site here in the UK. The factory is part of a £2.5 billion global investment drive in new technology. Dyson is aiming to launch its electric vehicles in 2021.
29 Nobel laureates, 6 of the world's top mathematicians and the biggest biomedical research lab in Europe, all warning about the potential Brexit brain drain and the damage that could cause to scientific research if there is no deal. And this programme has learned that the private healthcare provider BUPA is also considering shifting a part of its operation out of the United Kingdom into Ireland. Well, our business editor, Siobhan Kennedy, is outside the new Francis Crick Institute in central London. Siobhan.
Well, John, if you want a symbol of how Britain dominates European scientific research, is this building right here behind me. Some £700 million worth of investment, 1,500 scientists, roughly half of whom come from continental Europe. It's something about which the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have both said they are very proud. But some strong words today from the top scientist here who says when it comes to his and their fears about Brexit, the government simply is not listening. Now, more on that in a moment. One company, though, that is listening but says they do not like what they are hearing is BUPA. Now, we have been told that they have applied to move their European healthcare insurance business out of London to Dublin to avoid the perils, as they see it, of a hard Brexit. Now, they don't deny the move, they won't say how many staff they plan to move, and they say, just like hundreds of other companies up and down Britain, John, that they are watching and waiting for any signs of a deal, and then they will make their move.
We are BUPA.
BUPA, it's one of the biggest private healthcare firms in the world, running everything from hospitals to care homes to clinics. And it's headquartered here in Britain. But now BUPA is preparing to move its European health insurance business to Dublin, because post-Brexit, it will no longer be allowed to write EU contracts from Britain.
It may be a small part of BUPA's overall business, but the company's decision to potentially shift key UK staff and more than 100 million in annual revenue to Dublin is indicative of what many see as the Brexit brain drain that's inch by inch occurring up and down Britain. But it's the scientists in this building whose medical research underpins many of the services that companies like BUPA provide who have today sounded the most stark warning.
We're a leader within the biggest science bloc in the world, which is Europe. We are running away from that, and we will suffer as a consequence.
Sir Paul Nurse is a Nobel laureate and director of the Francis Crick Institute. 1,500 scientists work here, 40% from mainland Europe. The worry now that some of the best research brains could simply disappear.
The mood music is terrible. In many respects, you could say it's the most important negative thing about this whole business. We are facing a really serious problem. It has to be high on the agenda. I just don't think the public or the government has just got their head around the real calamity that we could be facing.
A fate so calamitous, he says, that Sir Paul and 28 other Nobel laureates wrote today to Theresa May and the EU, warning of the need for the closest possible collaboration or disastrous consequences.
Jacob Rees-Mogg, Boris Johnson, Michael Gove would all say we can continue to be at the forefront of science in the world.
Yes, but they're not interested in experts. They're not interested in expert opinions. They're just interested in their own opinions. Do you think they know anything about science compared with me? I don't think so. I know what I'm talking about here. This is a big problem. They're just speaking hot air about this issue.
Under a no deal, the Crick Institute could lose between £5 and £10 million in EU funding annually. UK science as a whole could find itself up to £1 billion short once we leave the EU. And the people could dwindle too, as 1 in 6 academics in the UK are European. Monica Rodrigo is one of them.
So we have to get them out of this gel.
A Spanish protein scientist, she's lived here for 7 years and says she'd leave if she hadn't just married a Brit.
The UK is the top place to do science, and we actually might lose that also because we're not getting this international flow of people coming to do great science in this country. I think everybody is very divided on this issue, and you sit sort of in the middle, looking on either side and trying to decide, okay, do they actually want me here? Do I feel wanted here, even?
Scientists like Monica want to stay. The irony is that businesses like BUPA do too. But they know to keep growing their 42,000 clients in Europe, they have to be there. So Dublin it is. A potential drain of talent from Britain if a deal can't be reached.